Hey everybody, Antony here. Well, as promised, I caught The Wolf of Wall Street, which was shown at the Cubic Cinema in Alexanderplatz, hence the reason why I came home so late at night. Honestly, I really enjoyed this film. It was hilarious in a pitch black way, and it was definitely an enjoyable experience. However, there are some flaws to this film that kind of downgraded my enjoyment. And we'll find out later during this review. Story wise, it was very engaging, thanks to Terrence White's solid writing, and of course, the great Martin Scorsese's directing. And it's quite surprising that this movie was based on the real life Jordan Belfort's memoir of the same title. And this basically tells the story of Jordan Belfort's life, gaining wealth, getting in trouble with the law, and many other crazy things that happen to this millionaire. And I thought it was fun to watch. The comedy definitely made it work. As pitch black as it is, as dirty as it definitely worked. However, there are a few problems to the story. One, the thing is, the sex scenes and the party scenes dragged this film too long. They dragged this film for way too long. This film may only be like 3 hours long, but the problem with both the sex scenes and party scenes is that it just starts to become annoying. Two, there is some filler here and there. Basically, it correlates to my first problem with the film, but yeah, there is some filler, even though some of them can be entertaining, some of them can be quite annoying to sit through. So, those are my only gripes with this movie. And another one would also have to be the overuse of sex jokes. I have no problem with sex jokes, and I'm not even a prude as well. But sometimes throwing in too many sex jokes can sometimes ruin a film, especially if it's trying to be a well written comedy. To its credit, it's well written, it's enjoyable, it's engaging. It's also very interesting to know about how tough and challenging a stockbroker's life can be, especially when they're in the office, as in making phone calls here and there, as if though it was complete and utter chaos in the workplace. And of course, it's also quite interesting to understand the whole controversy with insider trading and many other unethical business practices. It's no doubt that I've seen other films like Boiling Room and Wall Street and its sequel. Well, basically starring the last two films starring the main villain protagonist Gordon Gekko. I felt that those films were engaging and took these matters very seriously. Now, Wolf of Wall Street's case, it did take these seriously, but the comedy kind of overshadows it. The pitch black comedy definitely overshadows the whole unethical practices to the point where we think, well, it's funny, so we should laugh. But still, it's enjoyable. However, some elements of this film are flawed. Now, in terms of cinematography and style, it's very typical that it's a big Hollywood production and it's very well shot. Every detail, just like 12 Years a Slave, was paid close attention to. The cinematography was great. It was excellent. It was sharp. It was clear. There was never a dull moment. And everything felt unbelievably awesome. In fact, when I see the mansion and the yacht, I feel kind of envious. It makes me think that I really want to live there. It looks so amazing. So, overall, the cinematography, like I said, excellent work, excellent camera work, and very great details. Characters were also quite interesting. Yes, Jordan Belfort, the main character, on the outside is a terrible role model to anybody. He's selfish, he's brash, he's obnoxious, he's loud, he makes horrible decisions, he has sex a lot with other women, he snorts cocaine, he takes a lot of drugs, he does all of these crazy things, and we're supposed to hate him, right? Well, yeah, kind of, but lest we forget, this guy has promise. He has a goal. He has a vision to become richer than he already is, not just for himself, but he inspires others to achieve more of what they want in life. He aspires other people, his colleagues, to um, fight for what they truly believe in. So, sure, on the outside, he's an asshole. He's a prick. He's someone that we should never root for. But on the inside, or on his flip side, we definitely see someone we can definitely root for. And this story is all his. His point of view, his story, that's how he tells it. That's how he feels as a person. He does have a devil may care attitude, which I also find charming. And I could really forgive all of those horrible traits because let's face it, this guy has charm and passion, and that's what really makes Jordan quite likable. His colleague and best friend and greatest companion, Donnie, I thought was a great secondary character as well, or a great sidekick, or lack of a better word. But I think sidekick really applies to Donnie. I thought he was a very faithful friend. He always sticks by his side, and he does have some funny moments as well. And he's quite fun to watch in terms of his silly antics with the phone and when he's high. No doubt about it. And the chemistry that both of them have was great. I could really see that they're best friends. They're more than just colleagues, but they are friends who trust each other and who basically want the best of each other. And the only character that I felt had some development was basically um, Jordan's second wife. Um, yeah, Jordan's second wife, whose name is oh yeah, Naomi. Naomi. I almost forgot about that. Naomi pretty much showed a lot of development. Okay, she started out as this sexy blonde woman, and we're supposed to not really care for her. But as soon as she gets married to Jordan, she basically takes her marriage seriously. But she feels that she's living with such a man child of a husband through Jordan. She can't take it anymore. She has her first child and also her second child. She tries to be a responsible mother, and she tries to influence Jordan to be a good parent himself. But because of that, things don't really go well for the both of them, which I am not going to spoil. but I'm sure that those of you who've seen the film already know what happened to them. But another character I really, really enjoyed watching was, hang on a second, that I definitely enjoyed watching was the FBI agent, Patrick Denham. I felt he was a great foil to Jordan Belfort. I mean, this guy is pretty much the law incarnate. He stands for all that is just, all that is right, all that is good, all that is, well, justice. Whereas Belfort, on the other hand, stands for, well, do the hell whatever you want and make sure that you don't get your ass caught for it. And I thought he was a really great foil to Jordan. And he does make sure that this guy be brought to justice. And it's his mission in life. So you could really see the determination in his eyes, the his um, his moral codes, basically his moral codes as a person. You could really see that all in this FBI agent Patrick. And I felt that he was my most favorite character in the film because I felt that he was no nonsense, no bullshit. He takes absolutely no crap from others. And even though Jordan tries to bribe him, he doesn't take it. Because, let's face it, he knows that Jordan is going to get his ass in jail anyway. So, yeah, some of the characters I definitely thought were enjoyable. However, other characters like Chester were kind of only there and didn't really contribute much to the film, other than just stand there and, well, follow the lead of Jordan and his ways and his philosophy of how the business should run. I thought that they were just there. And speaking of characters, what about the acting? Well, the acting was definitely solid as well. I mean, where can you go wrong with Leonardo DiCaprio? Absolutely nowhere. You can't go wrong with him because he's been a veteran of the acting business for years. I'm sure that people who grew up in the 90s knew this gentleman as Jack from Titanic and his roles in The Beach and many other films that he starred in. Oh, and also Romeo and Juliet with Claire Danes. Seeing him as the title character was definitely a lot of fun. Okay, there are times that he does go over the top. There are times that he acts like a crazy person. There are times that he acts, well, almost too crazy that it's almost quite frightening. But still, he's Leonardo DiCaprio. He has this certain charm to this character that makes me like him, especially when he breaks the fourth wall. That makes me feel like this story can be engaging because let's face it, this is Jordan's story. Like I said, this is all Jordan's story, and Leonardo DiCaprio basically did a really good job, even though he does have a tendency to go over the top. Jonah Hill as Donnie, I thought was a great foil as well. Okay, not only are they like, Laurel and Hardy, but they have great chemistry as well. And he definitely did a great job playing the sidekick Donnie. There are times that he does act over the top as well, but that's all forgivable. He does a great job playing DiCaprio's sidekick. And he makes a great foil to um, Belfort's slick nature, and he can be comical. They almost remind me of another master and servant duo, Don Giovanni and Leporello. Yeah, I do feel that Belfort can be comparable to Don Giovanni, and, well, Donnie can be easily compared to Leporello, only except, let's face it, he doesn't have a list of Belfort's conquests. Oh, sure, yeah. But still, he was very enjoyable. But the one actor I really, really, really loved was Kyle Chandler as Patrick Denham. I thought he had such a magnificent presence to contribute to this film. He really looked the part. He not only acted the part, but he was the part. He definitely breathed this character. He made this character alive to the point where it's him. It's definitely him. His commanding presence and his directness and his no bullshit attitude definitely made this gentleman such a memorable character. And with Kyle Chandler, he definitely gave such a memorable performance. And I personally hope that he's also nominated. But I think, as I heard, Jonah Jonah Hill ended up being nominated, which is quite a pity because I thought that Kyle Chandler did a very good job, and I feel that he should have been nominated. He deserves a nomination. Sure, Jonah Hill was great, but I felt that Kyle Chandler was far more deserving of that nomination for Best Supporting Actor. But that's just me. Overall, Kyle Chandler's presence and um, acting were all fantastic. What was also astonishing for me was um, Matthew McConaughey, Matthew McConaughey as Mark Hanna. Sure, a lot of people who know this actor basically know him as Mr. Fanservice. But as the Black Critic guy said, he basically broke out of his Mr. Fanservice shell and had a lot more acting chops. And I thought to myself, even though he had quite a small role, he was able to give such a powerful and endearing performance, and one that really made me smile. So kudos to you, Mr. McConaughey. And then we have Kenneth Choi. Like I said, he was underused as Chester, which was a real pity because he was a pretty good actor too. But still, I wish that Chester and the other business partners would have had a lot more development, a lot more screen time, so that we could really understand them and like them a lot more. But still, the acting was stellar and solid all throughout. Overall, like I said, this film was enjoyable. It had a lot of laughs. It was a roller coaster ride of a film. However, there are some moments that drag the film way too long, even though it's supposed to be 3 hours, and it definitely felt like five. But it's not to discredit Mr. Scorsese, who is a veteran in directing. In fact, I felt that every actor did great, and Mr. Scorsese was great as usual in directing such an awesome film. Though, in my opinion, there are some flaws, but it can be forgiven, but they still had to be addressed. Overall, my final rating for this film is a 3.5 out of 5. Yes, yes, I know. And before you start bitching at me, and before you start complaining at me, and before you start whining at me of why I gave it such a low score, hear me out. Like I said, it's a good film. I enjoyed it. I thought it was hilarious. However, you also have to understand that sometimes I'm not always a big fan of extremely long movies. Sure, I can sit through 3 hours of opera, but at least there are intermissions. But with this film, there are no intermissions, so there's absolutely no chance for me. I mean, sure, my favorite length of a movie is usually an hour and 30 minutes, or 2 hours and 30 minutes, or even 3 hours at most. but they also have to have a good pace, or even a fast pace, but not too fast of a pace, not too slow of a pace. This film, I felt, even though it was only for 3 hours and 19 minutes, I definitely felt it was too long. Yeah, or excuse me, 2 hours and, yeah, 59 minutes. Yeah, 3 hours, what I have to say, is definitely the approximate time, but still, it felt long. And that's my hugest problem with it. Another thing is all the padding. It gets quite annoying. It gets quite tasteless after the next 2 or 3 times because let's face it, do you really want your film to just be a porno where you have all of these characters getting high, having sex, and having all of these crazy parties? Because if you would, you might as well direct a porno. Like I said, this is not to discredit Mr. Scorsese. But still, 1 or 2 sex scenes are enough, and 1 or 2 party scenes are more than enough. And like I said, no filler, please. It would have made the film a lot shorter. So that's my honest opinion of the much hyped Wolf of Wall Street. And let's face it, even though it didn't really live up to the hype, in my opinion, and even though it's not as great as 12 Years a Slave, I definitely see why it was nominated for an Oscar. It had such a great director in Martin Scorsese. The characters, for the most part, were fun to watch in their antics, and, well, the appeal is definitely universal. However, I'm quite indifferent to it, and like I said, even though I enjoyed it, there are times that I thought that this film ran way too long and it had way too much padding. But still, it was an enjoyable film that I can recommend. But this is not for younger audiences. I would like to make that clear. This is definitely not for younger audiences. As I said, there are a lot of sex scenes, nudity, drug use, partying, all of those things that you do not want your younger children to see until they're about, well, 18 or 21. So overall, this film was okay. Not the best thing I've seen, not the worst thing I've ever seen. It was okay, and I could see why it was deserving to win, or not really, excuse me. I could honestly see why this film, well, was deserving to some people to be nominated in the Oscars. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in to my next review. It's an opera review of Prokofiev's The Love for Three Oranges. Until then, this is Antoni wishing you all a good night.